the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas Podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. We've got FanRun Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. John Reed, he's here. He's up. He's been up for a while.
The morning comes very early, especially when it's 8 degrees when you go outside like it was this morning. So I woke up, the alarm went off, and I thought for myself, which I do pretty much every morning already, it's just, do I have an excuse for staying in bed? Do I feel sick enough to not go in? And I laid there for another 2 minutes. I said, nope, got to get up, got to go to work, got to talk about a big Vols victory, which was kind of funny because I was on the radio talking about it after the game last night. So not a lot of downtime in between going home last night about 10:30 and being back in at 7 a.m.
Has your opinion of what you saw last night changed at all since you've first started talking about it?
No, not really. I think there are a couple things coming out of it that I think we learned. Depends on where you want to start with the negative or the positive, but I do think there's both in most of these basketball games. That's what's fun about the season being so long and there being so many games. It's more of a story than I think college football is, right? Like college football season starts, you got 3 games that don't really even matter with the Vault wins, and then you really only have 9 to have a whole little roller coaster. As in basketball, it starts and you got a 4-month journey, ebbs and flows, hot stuff, cold stuff, players playing good, players playing poorly. I enjoy the journey much more of college basketball.
Interesting. I do think it's one of those where it's a good vibe going into Auburn now on Saturday, and I think the vibes have certainly shifted because I was pretty annoyed on Saturday about what happened at Vanderbilt, because ultimately, I don't know where you fell on this, John, but not to beat a dead horse here, because we've been talking about it all week, and I'm sure it's come up with you and all the good folks over there at FanRun Radio, but Barnes keeping Zakai on the bench for 7 minutes and 40 seconds, and his answer after the game of like, well, if you don't have that foul, that 3 with Meshack at the end, then we're okay. It's like, okay, that logic is extremely flawed, because Zakai has been your MVP. Like Bishop Oswald, they went at him multiple times in a row. That's a -4 right there really quickly. You could have been +7 in those minutes. Zakai had 2 fouls with 40 seconds to go in the game. And the idea that you couldn't have built on the lead. You had made 1 field goal post Zakai sitting in that first half. I didn't love that he doubled down after the game. I thought that was one where you go, all right, I messed up. Like Zakai, I should trust the guy who's been here for 4 years and he's not going to pick up a 3rd foul and he's going to be fine. Or at least 4-minute mark, you see that it's kind of slipping and Tennessee's kind of floundering because you're playing for a 1 seed. Like the urgency, I don't understand the lack of urgency, and obviously they get a nice bounce back win against a good Mississippi State team at home, but I think this is just a different team at home in and of itself. But you are playing for a 1 seed. Like that is what you are doing right now. The margin of error is so thin in this league at the top that you just can't do that. Like you have to, no fan is going to be upset that you rode Zakai Zeigler too long, or he got in serious foul trouble, he fouled out with a couple minutes left and whatever, because you rode Zakai Zeigler. Like it's a different thing than going the Tobe Awaka 2 foul rule versus Zakai. The rule should be different for guys like Zakai.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I'm not that critical of Rick Barnes these days because he's been really, really good, and I think this is the one thing I still feel like he's pretty stubborn on. Like, yes. I feel like he has, evolutionized his offense. He has come into the modern times. We're no longer trying to just throw it down into the post and play old school basketball. I think he has performed much better with the modern transfer rules than I think anybody thought he would have, right? In terms of an old man maybe stuck in his ways. No, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna embrace it. I think it's going to extend his career because I think it's going to be easier for him to recruit transfer guys than it will be high school guys at this point, because I think he is better at evaluating what you have and how you can fit in versus who you're going to be. But this is the one thing, Chase, that still drives me crazy. And I tweeted out on Saturday, I was like, man, if is Zakai Zeigler not the one guy you should trust? Like a guy that's been in your program, like that is your program at this point, is the face, the heartbeat, the soul, all of those things. You have to trust him to not pick up a foul. And I had a couple people push back and say, well, the way they're calling the game, they're just itching to call a foul. And I was like, well, kind of, but like There at that point, there were only like 12 total fouls in the game. It wasn't like it was a foul fest. Like we've seen foul fest in college basketball where, the Illinois game, for example, every time you touch somebody, it was a foul.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that was really the case at Vanderbilt. And I think Zakai, as you saw in the second half, was able to navigate those minutes without fouling again. And he's just by far the most important player on this team.
Mm.
He sets the table offensively. Like, I think by now it's safe to say Chaz Lanier, not Dalton Connect. It's not a slight on Chaz Lanier. He's still a really good player. But, like, Chaz Lanier's not a guy like Dalton was last year. It's like, hey, give me the ball, get out of the way. I'm going to hold us. I'm going to hold us above water. Chaz is like, hey, I want to catch and shoot. I'm going to play in the flow of the game, but I need to kind of be set up. Zakai, of course, so good at doing that. You already mentioned the stat of only one field goal after he fouled out. But then I find myself, Chase, trying not to be too mad about it. Do I think you wasted an opportunity to win that game and, continue your march to a 1 seed? Yes. Do I think it cripples you? No. And kind of like I was saying just a second ago with the ebbs and flows of the season, if you lose that game and you learn a lesson from it, to me, that's more valuable than the win sometimes, right? Like on Monday, I said, you know what? We lost, but hey, Igor, I liked what I saw late in the game where he's attacking the rim. Let's see if that aggression carries over. Spoiler alert, in case you didn't see the game last night, it did not. He just sat out there and shot threes instead, so he didn't unlock a.
Well, that's okay. I want him shooting more threes. He needs to be taking like 5 to 7 threes a game. He's a good shooter.
Well, this year he hasn't been. I do think, progression
in the past, yes.
come. Yeah, he showed last year he could shoot 37% from three. This year, I don't think it's like a SEC defense thing that's kept him from making shots. I just think he's just pressed a little bit.
They're good looks. He's hesitating on good looks.
Yeah, but Igor didn't carry over that aggression. So he didn't attack the rim. I think he shot 5 times last night, 4 of them being threes. So we didn't see a new Igor. But what I was going to say is if Rick Barnes learns from that, and I know what he said in the postgame. He's been stubborn in postgame press conferences the entire time he's been here. Nothing made me more angry than the Purdue game when he's like, Lamonte fouled him. I'm like, no, Rick, he didn't. And you don't say that. Defend your player, please.
Yeah.
But, him saying that, hey, Zakai, don't foul the three-pointer, I think all of Ball Nation agrees. We got to stop fouling three-point shooters. It's not just Zakai, although he's good for one a game, it feels like. Masek did it. Was it Gainey or Lanier that did it last night? Either way, one of them did.
I think it was Gainey.
Yeah, either way, I know we got another one. But, if Rick takes that Vanderbilt loss and all of a sudden realizes, hey, I can trust Zakai when he gets 2 fouls, and he doesn't do it in March when the games really matter, then I'll consider Vanderbilt a net positive. But, man, it drives me crazy. Just the whole philosophy of it.
Yes.
Not to go on a huge rant about it, but, you can't foul your own players out. And, that's what he did for the 7.5 minutes when Zakai didn't play. He did the ref's job of fouling him out. And then logically, I've always thought, is it more likely or less likely that the ref calls a third foul on a star player, or in the first half, or in the first minute of the second half, when it doesn't feel like it's as detrimental.
Yeah,
I believe in star treatment. I think you should play your stars in the NBA with 3 fouls because hey, the refs ain't going to give them a 4 foul in the first half. They ain't really going to do that. But if you set them out and play them at the beginning of the third quarter, hey, they might give you that whistle and you might lose those minutes anyway. So you really struck a chord here. It's something I'm very passionate about. And
we're on the same page here because I think, is he going to do this in the tournament? This could cost you a tournament game. Is this rule going to apply if you're on the ropes here in a close game in round 2?
Well, yeah, because I think everybody knows the big weakness of this team is lack of depth. And you can't afford to, again, take your best players off the court just for 2 fouls, especially when it's somebody you should trust. Like you said,
it's Zakai. It's just different. The rules should be different. It's okay to have different rules for your stars. Different rules.
I agree completely. I believe KenPom has us, or has Rick, has Tennessee at 335th in 2 foul participation. We don't do it. We are one of the worst teams in the country when it comes to giving guys a chance to play with 2 fouls. And the rules should be different for everybody, like you said. And like I said, it's just something I'm very passionate about because it's the one thing I still kind of criticize Barnes for. It's the one thing that I still wish he would, evolve with and come into modern basketball.
And I think it's fair. It's we're still appreciative. Rick Barnes is still elite. And you laid out what he's still doing extremely well at Tennessee. But it's also fair to push back and be like, this has got to stop. It does. We're at a different point because you're so close. And that's what I think it pressurizes this thing so much more, is that you get to the Elite Eight last year. This roster is still really good this year. You're close. You're right there. We'll see you on the ruling, the 5-year ruling, if this is it for Zakai and Jahmai. But like you're just so close, and the stakes are just different now. And you're right. In the number 1 seed, we know the history of like success in the tournament as a 1 seed versus a 2 seed. I mean, look at last year. Like if you get that 1 seed, I mean, you don't have to face Purdue in that Elite Eight matchup, and you avoid them. Like you are hosting in a totally different part of the bracket, and it's just too important. And I think Tennessee and Rick has to look at it as like, we are playing for a 1 seed. We have to pull out all the stops to get a 1 seed. And maybe that's Saturday, because like the Vanderbilt loss doesn't matter if you upset Auburn on Saturday,
right,
because you're right back in it. You're a 1 seed again after that. But it's just, you have 5 losses basically in SEC play to play with to get a 1 seed. You've burned 2, and 3 of these first 6 games have been unranked teams. Like it's only going to get harder. You have to play with so much urgency right now because of the razor thin margin of error at the top with Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, and Auburn.
I've been saying 6. I think 12 and 6, you have a chance to still get a 1 seed depending on how you.
6 makes me nervous, which is how the history there. Yeah.
No, 100%. I think you're right on 5. You're there. 6, you got a chance. But with all that being said, Chase, and I'm sure Rick Barnes feels this way, if Meshack just stays on the shooter at the end of the first half and doesn't give up an open 3 and foul him, you would have survived the 9 Zakai minutes and only been down 2 and been in a decent spot. And even then, you came out of the locker room in the second half and you got it down to 1 pretty much immediately. And you were right there, being able to almost take control of the game before they went on their big run that buried you. So I'm sure Rick looks at that and says, if we execute these 2 things, it doesn't matter that Zakai was off the court. And that doesn't really give me a lot of hope that he will actually do anything differently.
Rick, that's not there's another side of this argument that you're conveniently ignoring, which is you could have built the lead. Like you were up when Zakai left. Like the league, you didn't have to just be down. You didn't have to accept your fate of like, well, at least we were only down 2. It's like, no, like that's the logic is flawed. That's not, there's 2 sides to this, and you're conveniently ignoring the other one.
But please, I'm not on my knees yet. I'll wait till that March. Zakai, please stop fouling jump shooters. You are not big enough to block shots. And I don't mean that disparagingly. You're an All-American. You are putting together one of the 10 best careers in Tennessee basketball history. Yeah. You have a chance of leaving maybe already as the best point guard in Tennessee history when it comes to careers. Please stop fouling jump shooters. You're not big enough to block the shots. Just break down and guard them. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. It drives me crazy.
I'm right there with you. What's the biggest positive you have right now about this team? Like, what is your favorite thing about this Tennessee team right now?
The biggest positive? I mean, to me, I think the biggest positive is Zakai. Like, I do think that's it. Like, I said last night, voluntary reaction, post-game show, after every Tennessee basketball game, check us out, FanRun Radio. I said there's 3 differences that are really standing out to me about this team from last year's team, like comparing the 2. Number 1 for me is there is no Dalton Connect. Chazanier is not Dalton Connect. And that's fine.
He's more Vescovy than Dalton Connect.
He's what we hoped Vescovy would be, like good Vescovy. Right, not the last couple of years of Vescovy, but like Vescovy, like, hey, you're going to sit outside, shoot, big. Yeah, you're right about that. But number 2 for me was like, hey, I think Zakai, the leaps he's made from last year to this year almost closes some of that difference of not having a Dalton Connect. Like, to me, Zakai is an All-American, and you can make the case he is the best point guard in the country or one of. And I didn't feel that way about him last year. Coming back from the ACL injury, he had a really slow start to the season. And quite frankly, I feel like he ran out of gas in the second half of the season, or at least like right there the last week or 2 of the tournament. To me, he seems like a different animal. Like, to me, he seems like a different player. And, the whole rant about fouling shooters aside, that's been my biggest positive about this team.
I mean, he just makes so many plays. Like last night, I mean, he just like gets around a dude to like his steals are always just, where did he even come from? How is he able to get his positioning inside in the way he does? And I mean, he's good for just some crazy steals every game. And I mean, his shooting is fine. Like, I think a lot of people were nervous early on about the shots not falling for Zakai. But I mean, Zakai's shooting's been great. I mean, the roof almost was torn off when he missed that 3 off the Was it a steal? Did he get the steal in that one and just pulled up from three and
Yeah.
it went in and out? But it was like we saw against Georgia, like he just gets on these heaters and he just decides to put the game away. Like I think that's my favorite thing about Zakai is he's just such a good closer where he's like, enough is enough. Like he kind of reminds me of Hendon in that way where he's just like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. And same number too.
Progression to the mean for his shooting as well. Like he was down in, the 26-27% range from three before we got into SEC play. I haven't ran the numbers this week, but when I ran them last week through 4 SEC games, he was up to, just 36% in conference play. So like the shooting has kind of gotten back to where it needs to be. That's better this year. And, last night especially, it kind of stood out to me. I thought he was more aggressive in his drives. Like a lot of times he's probing, he's trying to find a lob to throw to, he's trying to shoot a floater. I thought last night you saw him just attack the rim. There was the one fast break where he goes under for the reverse layup, when a 7-footer's coming after him. I thought he was more decisive getting to the rim, and that helped win you the Texas game. It helped bring you back against Vandy, and last night I thought it was a big factor too. So I've been critical of Zakai over the last couple of years, but I'm singing his praises this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's unequivocally your best player, but I also would say, like in the positive spin, Felix Okpara has had a great start to SEC play, and he was great again last night against Mississippi State. Rebounded extremely well, obviously to 3. He'll finish the year hopefully 1,000% from 3. But I mean, he's really really settled in and is just a very good glue guy. He does a lot of stuff really well. He's just solid. He knows what he is. He knows his role. But I think he's kind of overlooked because it's just not fun. Like his style and what he has to do for Tennessee is not a fun, sexy thing. But it's great
refreshing.
And important.
It's refreshing compared to what you kind of had, in Jonas Adu last year, especially with his shortcomings in the tournament. It is refreshing just to have a big man that's willing to do the dirty work.
Yes.
I've been saying, I want him to kind of model what Tyson Chandler was with the, for most of his career with the Knicks and the Mavericks. Just like, hey, block shots or defend the rim, I should say.
Yeah.
Defend the rim, catch lobs, and try to grab some rebounds. And I saw last night he's incorporated the Tyson Chandler backwards tap. I don't know if you saw that on the offensive rebound where he just kind of smacked it out to half court. That's something Tyson Chandler made a killing on in the NBA. My one critique of Felix, and I did think it hurt us against Vanderbilt, he needs to slow down and kind of curb his eagerness to block shots. I think he gets out of position too much trying to come over and block shots. And when he doesn't get the block, it's leading to some offensive rebounds, and it's kind of hurting the team there because I think we're so good defensively, and he has a physical presence down low. If we just play normal standard defense and he can secure the rebound, that's better than going up and getting one block out of like 4 attempts. And last night he only had 1 block, and I thought he played better defensively and it impacted the game just as much as he does when he has 3 or 4 blocks. And you keep in mind, when you check the box score, Mississippi State, a really good offensive rebounding team, only had 10 offensive rebounds on 37 misses last night. I think those are kind of connected.
I love that. Switching gears here a little bit to football, John. Have you been surprised at how quiet Tennessee has been in the portal?
Surprised, maybe. Upset or worried, no.
Okay.
I think, I don't know how you felt about the receiver exodus. I didn't think there were really anybody that was leaving that, Tennessee was going to really miss.
I think it was necessary.
No, yeah, it was kind of a cleansing. It was almost a purge of sorts.
It was what we did on the secondary last year. It was the same thing.
That's what I was going to say. It wasn't dissimilar from that. People freaked out about it. It ended up working out as a positive. Do I wish Tennessee maybe would have grabbed one high-level impact wide receiver? Yeah, maybe. But overall, I like the shift from to what seems to be happening, where they're going to prioritize their own young talents and spending their NIL budget or their roster building budget on trying to get some high school kids in here and trying to kind of develop that, because I think that's the way to go. I think the teams that rely too much on the transfer portal, they don't win. You saw Ole Miss, you saw Miami, they fell short. Now you would like to supplement it and have the really strong high school recruiting, and then grab a couple superstars like Quinshon Junkins and Caleb Downs. Ohio State made that look good. But if you look at their team, a lot of their core was high school recruits.
Yeah.
Now they brought Will Howard in. That was an important position. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think they really would have missed him if Kyle McCord stayed. I think they would have had the same results this year where they win a championship with McCord. So I like that Tennessee is trying to build young talent and kind of sustain that way. And then, spend spend the offseason keeping your own talent. Like Mike Matthews' thing, to me, that might as well be a portal addition because it felt 50-50 that he was going to leave. So you keep your 5-star there. Let's see him develop. Let's see how he does. I think getting guys like Amari Jefferson to come up and play wide receiver, I think that's something that could pay off down the road because he's got 4 years of eligibility left. I like it. I like taking care of the people in your locker room that need to be taken care of, need to have their contracts reworked, whatever, need more opportunities. I prefer doing it that way. What about you? Are you worried about the transfer portal strategy? Do you want to see more impact guys?
I would have loved to just have one more year of Dante Thornton. It's not allowed, but I think he's going to be kind of understated just how good he was for Tennessee this past year and how much he actually bailed out Tennessee, because everything's looking at Sampson, and look, Sampson deserves a lot of credit for what he did in the second half for Tennessee. But you go through the games, when Tennessee averaged less than 10 yards per reception, they lost every single game this year. Dante Thornton was your lone yak guy. That was it. And Dante Thornton, I mean, he saved you in the Vanderbilt game to get you in the CFP. Like, I would have loved one more year of Dante Thornton to kind of bridge the gap. Because when we talk about like just moving on from guys like Nimrod and Caleb Webb and company, and Leacock, like those are okay. That you can live with that, with the young talent coming in behind them. But you would love like just one guy that you're 100% certain is a producer on this team. And it's also the other thing that helps Dante Thornton, if he had one more year of eligibility, is he doesn't need that many snaps. Like he can play 25 snaps and have a huge impact on the game. So you would still be able to play a bunch of your young guys and also just factor in Dante Thornton for a little bit of the time, because he doesn't need a bunch of snaps to be effective. Like it's just a different kind of deal. So for me, I am a little concerned because like it's tough to say, but I think Georgia's had the exact kind of offseason I wanted Tennessee to have in the portal, which is stack it with young talent. They have 5 blue chippers coming in, freshmen. They retain Nitro Tuggle, which is their version of retaining Mike Matthews in that room. And they also went out and got Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas. Both guys that I really, really would have liked Tennessee. Even just one of those two for Tennessee would have been great because they saw their issue. They led the country in drops last year, and Kirby and company went out and addressed the issue. So for me, I think you need one, and I still think they're going to get – I have a hard time believing your only vet in this room is going to be Chris Brazzell in 2025. I just have a really hard time believing you're going to run it that young with that inexperienced with so much on the line this year. It doesn't even mean this. You have to get a big difference maker, but like you just kind of like the absence of Brew, who has clearly been a leader in that room for years. I am a little concerned that there's no vet guy to help on that side of the ball. I mean, you look at it, Sampson, Cooper Mays, Brew McCoy are probably your 3 best leaders over the last couple of years on that side of the ball. They're all gone. Like I don't know who is leading offensively in 2025.
What I would say to that is I agree with Thornton. Thornton, the big play guy. But when it comes to like Brew and Squirrel and the transfers that are leaving, and quite frankly, even Dylan Sampson, this feels like blasphemy saying, I thought all those guys lacked home run pop and explosiveness. Yeah. And I thought, Sampson very rarely.
He wasn't Jalen Wright.
Right. Like, or I think his longest rush of the year was it 54 yards, 52 yards, somewhere around there. Like, there was a couple of times that, Wright would be gone, or, other running backs would have the higher top end speed. We know the wide receivers didn't really have much pop, especially outside of Thornton. So you're losing some veteran presence, but like, I think this offense needs to get back to speed. Yeah. I think they have to be able to take the top off the ball or take the top off the defense and get the ball down the field. Nico's going to have to hit those shots. Don't get me wrong. He didn't do them many favors this year, overthrowing so many deep balls. But I think I'm more intrigued by the unknown versus, just kind of the household names. Like, Brew was great. Don't get me wrong. He was going to get you 6 or 7 yards. The problem was a lot of those times he was only going to get you 6 or 7 yards, right? Yeah. Like, it wasn't like he was going to have the 40, 50, 60-yard plays. I'm excited to get some young guys in here, including, guys like Travis Smith. I'd rather see a freshman come in and give us something new, and Staley getting on the field and for getting to actually play in the season. Those guys excite me. I'm pumped to watch the offense, and like you said, it's very important. And I think it's something everybody can agree on. No matter which side you're on, hey, they should get more transfer guys, or hey, it's going to be fine. Whatever it is, we can all agree the offense has to be better this year, and the wide receivers have to be better this year. Like, no matter how they do it, Heupel and Halsley, they got to get it fixed. It's got to get better. There's got to be a return of explosive plays. Nico's got to play at a better level. And, it's just something that has to be done.
It's so funny because I think there was a lot of And I'm sure with the post-game reaction shows and what you've heard from fans, John, is like there was so much animosity towards Tim Banks after the Ohio State loss. And a lot of that was after the Georgia loss. The one thing I'm certain of in 2025 is Tennessee's going to have another top 15, top 10 defense. And keeping him and keeping that side of the ball, like I think there's been some national folks like, oh, the Tennessee drop off without James Pierce. I'm like, I think they're going to be just fine without James Pierce on that defensive line. That's probably your best position that you develop better than anybody else. Their linebackers, I think, will be better next year. The Dramad injury hurts, but I'm still going to bet on him being okay. And I think you still have some promising depth there behind him. Jalen Murray was really good for you last year. Boo in another year, and this is, I think, the safeties are going to be better than what you saw last year as a whole. So I think the defense has a chance to be even better than a year ago. It's the offense. Like, it's just kind of funny that we're in year 5, and this is I've coined this the eval year for the offense, because the evals on defense have been good. Like they are passing with flying colors all over the place with their evals. Offense, like this is now like you got to win the eval war with Satterwhite and Max Anderson. You got to win it with David Sanders at right tackle. You've got to win it with all your receivers, like Braylon Staley, Mike Matthews, Travis Smith, Rodarius Jackson. Like some of these guys are going to have to hit. Amari Jefferson was in your final 2, so he was clearly a big eval guy for you. He's basically a high school recruit. Peyton Lewis, he's an eval guy. Nico Iamaliava is obviously the biggest one. Like you brought him in, he was the big get, and he was okay last year. Like and especially second half of the Alabama game on, he got a lot better. I love that he ran the ball extremely well down the stretch, and I think that has to be something that carries over in 25. But this whole year is a gigantic eval year offensively because there's no Pruitt guys, no transfer guys. This is all you.
So when you say eval year, you mean like we are going to be judging how this staff picked their players and like the guys they wanted? Okay. See, to me, I like where you're headed. I would maybe take it a step further, especially when you said Nico, it triggered like it's more of a developmental year because like I think with Nico especially, the other guys I think you're right about, but like with Nico especially, I think everyone that watches football can see the talent there. Yes. From the 7-on-7 in high school, the bowl game to like him beating up on UTC, everyone sees the throws he can make. Mm-hmm. The evaluation was right about Nico. Like it wasn't like Heupel tried to go out and get a diamond in the rough. It's like, hey, this is a stud. This is a guy. But now, year 3, can you develop this quarterback? Because Hendon Hooker, I don't know how much was Hendon Hooker versus how much was Josh Heupel and or whatever. But like Nico's your guy, and you are taking a guy that had aspirations of being a first-round draft pick, really a top 5, number 1, maybe NFL draft pick. If you fail him and he doesn't get better, does that make Faison reconsider? There's nobody else to blame really except you when it comes to that if you're Josh Heupel and your offense, because 2 years ago before Joe Milton, the book on Josh Heupel from everybody was quarterback whisper. Hey, he's going to get good quarterback play. Hey, he's going to elevate the quarterback. It doesn't matter who it is, Drew Luck, Dylan Gabriel, or whoever, or not Dylan Gabriel, but what was his name? I'm talking about.
Mackenzie Milton.
Mackenzie Milton, thank you.
Yeah.
Like no matter who's there, like he's going to get good quarterback play. Now he's going to take his best recruit ever and like not be able to do it, like turn him into a game manager, which he was for most of last year. That would be a big, big X for Josh Heupel if he can't get Nico, back to where he needs to be.
But it's also like if the tackles aren't better, none of this matters. Like the tackles,
you're right.
Like if you have to live in 12 personnel like you did all of last year, guess what? The chunk plays aren't coming back. Like you're going to have games where Miles Kittsman leads you in receiving again. And it's going to be really hard for you to escape those games with victories like you did last year because you were able to run the ball with a bell cow Heisman type running back in Sampson. Like that's gone. Like you're going to have to do a trio with Star Thomas, Peyton Lewis, and Deshaun Bishop. Like there's no way around it. Like you're going to have to rotate. And then you're looking at the tackles like Lance Hurd. Like he has to be who he was advertised. Like if he is not going to protect Nico's blindside an elite level, like that completely changes the ceiling of what this offense can be. If Nico doesn't get time, if Nico's getting rocked again, if David Sanders isn't a plug and play guy right away, if you get the same tackle play you got from John Campbell, Dane Davis, and Lance Hurd in 2024 as you do in 2025, guess what? None of this gets fixed. Like it starts there for me. Like that has to be good. Like there's just no way around it.
And maybe that even goes a step further with the developmental thing I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Like Lance Hurd was a 5-star. Not every 5-star pans out, but like Lance Hurd's a 5-star. David Sanders 5-star. You can't get these guys to play well. At a certain point, we got to look and say, hey, it's coaching. Like I'm not going to get mad at Ellerby and Heupel for not being able to turn John Campbell and his busted knees or Dane Davis, a former walk-on, into an SEC level consistent starter. But if you can't get Lance Hurd good in year 2, and you can't take this, top 5 prospect in David Sanders and have him ready to go, that's a coaching problem more than it is an evaluation problem as far as I'm concerned. But it is, just one last point about the Tim Banks thing you talked about. It was mixed in terms of people being excited he was coming back. Some people wanted to change just to try something different. Some are frustrated that, hey, we still can't figure out how to stop when guys go in motion. We can't figure out the very basic drag routes and whatever. Like, I think Tim Banks is a really good defensive coordinator. I think he's a B+, maybe even an A-.
I would go A-.
Yeah, he's not an A, he's not an A+, but he's a B+, A-, depending on what day of the week it is. That should be good enough to win big at Tennessee if you get the offense you're supposed to. The offense hasn't done Tim Banks any favors.
Have you seen The Departed?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Mark Wahlberg's like, I'm the guy who just does my job, you must be the other guy? That's what Tim Banks was doing all season. Like, really, that's what he's been doing the last 2 years. Like, every year the offense gets better, the defense gets better, the scoring defense gets better. He's like, I just imagine he goes in the room every day. Like, I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guys.
I'm supposed to be the weak link here.
Yes.
I'm supposed to be the one that's dragging us down. Can I get some help? Like,
yeah.
Please?
100%.
Please?
They're on my case. And it's like, I'm sorry, we have a true freshman who hasn't played all year getting 50 snaps at receiver in a playoff game. And I'm getting people on my case?
It would feel to me, you didn't do a very good Boston accent there. I would appreciate a little mock wall, but I'm the guy that does my job. You must be the other guy. I would appreciate an attempt there. But, like, I'm picturing just like when Dwayne Wade back in the finals when LeBron was playing the Mavericks, like, I brought you in here to be the guy, and I'm having to still do everything. Or even LeBron James now with Anthony Davis, like, I'm doing my job. I'm elevating. Like, I need some help here, and just kind of staring. If I was him, I'd look at Josh Heupel and I'd look at Joey every day, just staring. I'd make them look me in the eye and apologize every day for not doing their job.
Yeah,
because I'm the guy. I'm the guy doing my job around here.
100%.
Mine wasn't much better.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, we are Tim Banks Tennessee defense apologists. Like, it's just, it is what it is. Like, I'll go to I'm like, this defense is 100% good enough to win a championship. Like, you just have to be in that top 10. This offense has to be back in the top 10. Like, the defense is right there. The defense is good enough to put you in a position to win every game that you step onto the field on Saturdays. Like, they put you in the position.
And quite frankly, like, I don't know if I buy into everyone feeling better about Ohio State, just because Ohio State won the championship, feeling better about our program and not getting embarrassed by them and all that. But, like, I will say it did make me feel a little bit better seeing Will Howard just pick apart everybody's defense and, like, nobody be able to guard those wide receivers. Do I still like the game plan that Tim Banks came out with? No, not really. But they were trying to go out there and guard a bunch of aliens.
But I also just think, like, you look at it, like,
the Georgia game bothers me more than the Ohio State game did.
I'm here for that. I also just think next year, like, Will Brooks, I think great ball, but if you're going to be able to plug in Idris Farouk, who I'm pretty high on, into that Will Brooks spot, I think you're looking at a bump where the Achilles heel for Tim Banks last year, and really the last couple of years, has been the middle of the field when these guys get time. They dice him up in the middle of the field. But what you've seen is, like, no Keenan Peely was a gigantic loss for his defense in the middle of the field and catch it and keeping up with those backs and tight ends in the middle of the field. Like, the Georgia game was just Oscar Delp and Ben Yurosek. They were just killing you in the middle, just in the middle of the field. They weren't hitting anything outside. That was all in lockdown. It was all in the middle. But what that was linebackers like Jalen Smith. The year before it was Elijah Herring. It was not your blue chip guys. It was guys who were in that spot because Keenan Peely was hurt. And then they were targeting last year Will Brooks in space. Guess what? Next year, it's going to be Edward Spillman. It's going to be it's all blue chippers on that side of the ball. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to pick on Tennessee's linebackers the way you have been the previous 4 years. And I don't think you're going to be able to pick on Tennessee's secondary the way you've been. You saw that at the corner spot and with Boo at star. I think the safeties are going to be really good. I mean, Turrentine will be in year 3 as a starter. I think he'll be solid. And I think Idris Farouk's going to be a really good player at that other spot. And I think he probably is your other starter. Or Christian Tart. Like, they're going to be okay. Like, I just don't think you're going to be able to pick on Tennessee the way that Georgia did and Ohio State did in 2025. That doesn't mean I think they're going undefeated, but I just think that weakness is not going to be there. I think the linebacker play is going to be what Tennessee fans are like, oh, this is what it's like to have just nothing but talent at linebacker. And we haven't had this in a while because whether it's Christian Gass, Edwin Spillman, Jeremiah Thielander, Aaron Carter, like, you're only plugging in Jaden Harmon, This is the all blue chip linebacker crew that Tennessee has not had to this point under Heupel.
Sounds like you like the over 9.5.
Well, you say that. I don't actually. I don't, John,
no.
because like it requires.
You love the defense, so you have no confidence in the offense then.
Well, here's the problem. So to get the over, Tennessee has to win one game that Heupel has not won through 4 years. He either has to beat Georgia. He's 0-4 at this point. And then he has to win at either Florida and Alabama. He hasn't done that either. Like it requires an upset. So right now, I don't think the schedule is great for Tennessee to get to 10-2. Like it's just.
So you look at that differently. So you look at the Georgia game as Georgia. You still think that's Georgia on the road versus more like Alabama at home. Does that make sense? Like, because like you say, he hasn't won that game yet, but like to me, the Alabama at home is kind of the same as Georgia at home. Now, 2023 and 2021, you didn't really have rosters good enough to beat them.
I mean, you haven't scored in the second half on Georgia in the last 2 years.
Do you think that would have been different if the games were at home? Like, do you think Tennessee would have had a better chance in 2022 if the game was in Knoxville versus Athens? Do you think 2024 goes any differently if it's in Knoxville instead of Athens? Because I personally do. I don't think you necessarily win in 22, but I definitely think you would have. I think you would have won in 24 if that game was in Knoxville.
I can't do that just because Tennessee the receivers have not handled Georgia's physical style at corner. Like Georgia is press man. They are physical with Tennessee receivers. That was what 2022 was, where those guys were just not getting open. And they had like 3 spots where I think Tillman had a drop deep in that game. He got open once, but it was basically like Hyatt got open once, Tillman got open once, but it was like 3 times in that entire game in Athens. And I think that would have been the case in Knoxville in 22. I don't think they're getting open. Like I think Georgia's.
I remember that differently. I remember those guys kind of having some looks and Hennon just missing them. Hennon overthrowing them like 3 or 4 times. Like I thought they had some pretty good steps.
But it's like a small window. Either way, like you only have a couple shots. Like Georgia's like I just feel like Kirby's style just does not mesh well with Heupel's offensive style.
So you feel that way? 22, I agree. I think they were too talented in 22. I think they had Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, you weren't blocking Jalen Carter. Like he was getting through.
I don't think you beat him in 22. I think you put up a better fight, but no, you don't beat him in 22. But you don't think you could beat him in 24, especially like with the way you came out, the way Georgia was struggling coming to that game. You jump out to a 10-0 lead. Like I don't see that game going the same way, and I don't see the officiating being as one-sided if it's in Knoxville. Like, I mean,
he's only lost one game in 3 years in Knoxville, and it's to Georgia. Right. I do think it would be a better game, but I don't know. Okay. I feel the best of those 3 for me. The best I feel is Alabama, just because you've all like he has played Alabama well, like dating back to 2021. I understand it's now DeBoer. But he has played, like, they've been unfazed going to Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa is not a crazy environment. Like, it's one of the weaker, I think, SEC home environments. I don't think it's the one that I think is of the 3 that's most unlikely that Tennessee wins is at Florida. Like, until they even, like, at Florida is just a nightmare. Like, until it's not a nightmare, I'm just going to go ahead and pencil in nightmare. Nightmare in Gainesville.
I will say I appreciate it being in November.
Yeah,
because the heat might not get to you. And also, like, I think there's a pretty good chance that Florida is not riding high when you come into that game. Like, I do think last year they got a shot in the arm by putting in their freshman quarterback. He showed some promise. He's not a freshman anymore. There's no more, like, break in case of emergency, like, shot in the arm they can get. So, like, if they're 5-5 at the time of that game, like, or even 6-4, are they really going to show up and show out to just try to ruin Tennessee's season? So I think I disagree. I think of those 3 games, I think Tennessee can win one of them. The question would be would they stub their toe somewhere else, like the Arkansas game this year. Like,
but they don't really have that this year, right? Like they
don't. Like Mississippi State's that game. They should win that.
Yeah, they're not losing at Mississippi State. I guess the only
Kentucky. They don't ever lose to Kentucky. Like,
no, Heupel's never losing to Kentucky as long as they're there. Like I'm just
Syracuse, maybe. I don't think so, but. So
I mean, if you lose at Syracuse, this next year is going to be awful. Like, I'm just going to go and tell you, like, the vitriol, if you lose to Syracuse in Atlanta, like, I'm telling you, like, I don't care that Syracuse has improved. You lose to Syracuse in Atlanta, season's toast. Like, the vibes are all-time bad. I don't think you overcome that. Like, I think that is a bad omen about where things are going. You have to win and beat Syracuse. Like, that's non-negotiable.
Can't follow that up. That Ohio State performance up by losing to Syracuse. No, you got to win and kind of win impressively. Like,
yes.
The vibes need to be reset. The offense needs to come out and kind of flex some
like
muscle.
Mike Matthews, 7 catches, 110 yards, 1 TD. Like, you need something on offense where you're like, okay, we're moving in the right direction.
I agree.
John Reed, what can the good folks check out from you over at FanRun Radio and Fox Sports Knoxville this week?
We're over here working, man, nonstop. I'm on the morning show, the morning slot, talk sports every day from 7 to 10 a.m. Like I said, download the FanRun Radio app, post-game shows. I don't do the weekend shows. That's Russell Smith. But if you want to listen to instant reaction after Tennessee Auburn, we're also doing a watch party. Chase, feel free to come by, hang out with us. We'll be at local Smoky on Saturday nights if you want to come watch the Auburn game. Hopefully it's a competitive game. I hope Rick Barnes and Tennessee can handle playing the unbeatable Auburn Tigers. Nobody can touch Auburn. They're too good. I just hope Tennessee could prove they deserve to be on the same court as the juggernaut Bruce Pearl has built down there. But we're working over here. Give us a follow on all of our socials, TikTok, as long as you can, Instagram, X. I appreciate you, Chase. Always good to talk to you.
Absolutely. John, keep up the great work, my friend. Stay warm out there, and I'll talk to you soon.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.